Huohuang was born into a modern top-tier wealthy family and is a true member of the Royal King family. She, who has opened restaurants all over the country, has become the top one in the industry, but her psychology has gone wrong. Becoming good in life is boring, what should we do? The next second, she will cross the cultivation world. A brand new world, a brand new life, fiery passion reignited, don't say anything, roll up. Asterisk. Who is your favorite classmate in the monthly exam for the enlightenment class? Why? The answers of the little ones are surprisingly consistent. Huohuang, because Huohuang is so easy to learn. The little ones didn't dare to express their innermost thoughts. The fire phoenix pesters the teacher every day asking questions, and the teacher doesn't even have the energy to stare at them. They can play to their heart's content, copy homework, and steal snacks. Huohuang. Friendly reminder, if you don't work hard when you're young, you'll feel sad when you're old. Little brats. What do you mean, don't you understand? Asterisk. Looking at the handsome and angry man in front of her in the entrance examination of the four masters, she said to her, "Little doll, this is the true ruler of the Beichen sect of the Divine Sword sect. Would you be willing to enter this sect?" In her heart, Huohuang, who had been changing jobs for a long time, happily took the olive branch thrown by the strongest Beichen Jinjuan. With the strongest backing, the book spirit eagerly asked, "When will we establish the food cultivation sect?" Huohuang replied to it this way. "I am only half skilled now. At this time, the Jianzong sect is accepting disciples, isn't it misleading?" "So, said by Wei Guji Bangzi." Huohuang answered, "So, the establishment of the Kaizong sect is something that should be a concern only after obtaining the title of Senior Spirit Kitchen." The next day, the cultivation schedule was released. 3 meals a day are time for food cultivation. In the morning, study formations, practice swordsmanship in the afternoon, practice weapons in the first half of the night, and practice in the second half of the night. She believes that as long as it continues like this, the top professional title, Immortal Kitchen, will not be too far away. Keywords of the novel. I am working as the most voluminous cub in the cultivation world without a pop-up window. I am working as the most voluminous cub in the cultivation world. Download the complete set of TXT. I am working as the most voluminous cub in the cultivation world. Read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. Tianjiao becomes a sinner. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Tianjiao becomes a sinner. Tianlan Realm, Dongling Domain, Lingji Prefecture, School Enlightenment Class. As soon as it was time to finish class, the 5-year-old cubs cheered and rushed out of the enlightenment class, competing for points and playing with excitement. "Sir, I have listed several questions for your guidance." The crispy little milk voice held on to the gentleman's feet, and the gentleman who wanted to slip away reluctantly pulled out a smile on his face as he accepted the list of questions handed by the little doll. A month later, the results of the monthly exam for the enlightenment class were announced. The teacher looked at Huohuang with a loving expression and said, "Huohuang, your eagerness to learn is evident to all of your classmates. Everyone is taking you as a role model and continuing to maintain it." Huohuang, who was named, suddenly thought of asking her favorite classmate in the monthly exam question. "Sir, if Huohuang guessed the answer to this question, it might be Huohuang, because she is so easy to learn." With the unspoken voices of the little children, she attracted all the attention of the teacher. Without the teacher's attention, the little children still have to go crazy playing. Those who copy homework, those who steal snacks, those who read extracurricular books, and those who play gamoku. Many of my classmates in my past life came here like this. Although Huohuang wanted to remind the little ones in a friendly way. If you don't work hard when you're young, you'll feel sad when you're old. However, considering the comprehension of a 5-year-old cub, Yuema couldn't understand. As for ideological consciousness, it does not exist among 5-year-olds. 1 year later, Huohuang completed the 3-year course of the Enlightenment class and jumped to the Spiritual Cultivation class. At the same time, the teacher in the Enlightenment class had an extremely complex mood, with both relief and reluctance to part with the eager to learn Huohuang. The little ones in the Enlightenment class also couldn't bear to part with Huohuang, because once Huohuang left, their difficult days came. 2 years later, Huohuang completed the 6-year course of the Spirit Plant class, jumped to the elite class, and the young girls of the Spirit Plant class's level 6 cheered for their escape from the days of daily abuse. 2 years later, Huohuang completed a 4-year elite course through part-time work and study, and proposed an expansion project for the 5-attribute park of Jinji Academy. After 1 year, the project finally achieved results. As the name suggests, Lingji Prefecture is famous for cultivating various spiritual plants in the 5 great spiritual realms. The precious spiritual medicines planted in the Jinji garden are all extremely precious, with the 5-attribute garden being the most famous. And when Huohuang first chose the 5-attribute garden, she also valued its precious attributes. With this achievement, she finally became a full-time employee and became a senior executive in the management department of the governor's office. The salary has increased from a monthly salary of 10 yuan for lower-grade spirit stones to 1,000 yuan for middle-grade spirit stones. The accommodation has been moved from a collective dormitory to an independent courtyard. When handling the procedures in the task hall, Xiuxian Realm Human Resources Department, several young children who had previously worked as classmates in the Enlightenment class were also assigned jobs and will enter the spiritual plant garden to plant spiritual plants. This Huohuang, who ascends to the sky with 1 step, looks down on us. As a few of us living beings, it's too much for her to just act like air. Roland, who had once been roommates with Huohuang, turned her head and looked at her classmates who were assigned work in the same group. She calmly spoke, "Do you know the difference between us and her?" A few little dolls shook their heads together, and Roland turned her head to look in the direction where the phoenix had disappeared. She spoke with great regret. She has put all her heart into studying, so she is now highly valued by the governor and has a bright future ahead. It's impossible for me to learn from her. Be diligent, and become her one, but at least I won't be with you now, children. If the phoenix were still there, Roland would be happy to understand the importance of hard work. Huohuang was born into a top-tier wealthy family, known as the Rolling King family, before entering the cultivation world. Her ancestors came from the imperial kitchen family and made a fortune from it, becoming a giant in the catering industry. Growing up in such an environment, after graduating from college, she felt that her family business was not a challenge. Instead, she became interested in the ancient recipes uploaded by her ancestors, and started with replicating them. With a comprehensive planning book, she successfully secured investment in the replicated ancient recipe products. Afterwards, she only spent 7 years opening restaurants all over the country. Finally becoming the top one in the industry, without a challenge target, Huohuang's psychology has gone wrong. I sought help from a psychologist, but to my surprise, I was trapped in a dark spiritual world. Guided by the psychologist, I jumped off a building to commit suicide and was transported to this world of cultivation. A brand new world, not a generation with a strong background. A brand new life reignited her passion for life. Returning to the present moment, her strength lies in her ability to skip classes. Now that she has finally overcome her internship period and is about to enter the workplace, she is excited and excited. A few days later, the Prefectural Commandment Tower Square. At this moment, the outskirts of the square were overcrowded, but it was silent. Everyone's gaze fell on the fire phoenix waiting to be judged in the center of the square. Don't look at Huohuang's disheveled image and lifeless eyes at the moment, but she has a lot of inner drama. Fortunately, the guards who captured her had just injured her, and she finally regained consciousness. Through conversations with several guards, she learned about her burning down the library and stealing the immortal fire spirit honey. At this moment, she realized that in this world of cultivation, where strength is paramount, competition is actually even more fierce. She blindly competes and lacks the ability to protect herself, becoming cannon fodder at any time. She needs to ponder on the way to survive as a young cultivator with no background in the field of cultivation. But now is not the time to think about these things. She needs to save herself first. Her cultivation career has just started, and she can't just hang up like this. At the same time, on the high platform in front of the square, one of the 5 people sitting upright in the center is the Lord of the Discipline Pavilion, Mu Yen. At this moment, he stood up and took a few steps forward. His cold and solemn gaze fell on Huohuang, and he spoke up, "Huohuang, you caused trouble by burning the library last night, and then took advantage of the chaos to sneak into the Xinji Academy and steal the immortal fire spirit honey. Can you plead guilty?" As soon as these words were spoken, the disciples who were watching immediately exploded. A disciple in green exclaimed, "This little girl has borrowed courage from heaven. She dares to dye her fingers with the immortal product fire spirit honey. How dare she?" Shwa shwa shwa, several lines of sight were cast around, all of which were indescribable. Their voices at this moment were surprisingly consistent. This is a simple and honest person, truly hammered. No wonder Huohuang proposed to expand the 5 attribute garden, originally to steal the immortal fire spirit honey and stamp points. On the other hand, a disciple who consciously discovered the truth spoke up. Many disciples who heard these words now have a voice in their hearts. This speculation is well-founded and cannot be refuted. The young disciple, who had not yet gained much knowledge, curiously asked the older elders around him, "The immortal fire spirit honey sounds so precious. Is there any difference between it and other spirit honey?" The disciple who was consulted, with a mysterious expression on his face, threw the bait and said, "What does it mean to know that Lingmi is classified as an immortal product?" A few inexperienced cubs shook their heads together, but their eyes were filled with strong curiosity, and they all said in unison, "What does it mean?" Their tone was also somewhat urgent. Seeing the success in arousing the curiosity of the little children, he began to show off. Immortal fire spirit honey is collected from precious fire attribute spiritual medicines that have bloomed for 100 years by fire-type spiritual bees. It takes up to 10 years to brew spirit honey. This type of spiritual honey contains a huge amount of fire attribute spiritual energy, which can counteract all negative states, quickly replenish the consumed spiritual energy, and also has the effect of assisting cultivators in increasing the power of their skills by 30%. So the quality is designated as a fairy product, and due to the low production, often auctions can fetch exorbitant prices. "Wow, that's amazing." "That's nature," the boastful disciple replied, squinting his eyes to enjoy the adoration and attention of the little dolls. At the same time, in the main room of a small courtyard on the outskirts of the residential area of Gongwei Prefecture, there is a young girl of 17 or 18 years old who urgently looks in front of her. She sits cross-legged, practicing spells, and is a woman in her 30s. There was a yellow talisman figure hanging above the woman's hands. The figure was trembling violently, as if trying to break free from her control. The woman's face turned pale in order to stabilize it, and her forehead was uncertain whether she was anxious or suppressing the talisman, which required too much cultivation. A layer of fine sweat oozed out. On the square of the Discipline Pavilion, Huohuang ignored the noisy discussions from the outside world, gritted her teeth and pursed her mouth, tightly suppressing the 3 words, "I confess." And as she tried to regain control of her body, the veins on her forehead bulged, and her expression became somewhat ferocious. Her abnormality caught the attention of the onlookers, and the voices of discussion gradually subsided. Mayan also noticed this, his face remained calm and his heart was shocked. When did this girl regain consciousness, and how could her willpower resist the control of the puppet talisman? To avoid long dreams at night, he immediately spoke up and said, "Do you think that if you don't speak, the crime you committed will no longer exist? Unfortunately, the Shadow Stone records your criminal history. Now I announce that Huohuang maliciously burned down the library to create trouble, stole the immortal Huoling honey, and behaved badly. He will be punished with 10 meteor whips." As soon as the punishment was announced, the disciples gathered around and took a deep breath. The meteor whip will double whip the body and divine sense. Even if a cultivator refines the body to the hardness of refined steel, the divine sense will collapse into a fool, and humans will also be completely disabled. In front of everyone, they watched as Mayan took the meteor whip from the disciples of the disciplined pavilion and shook together. The Lord of the pavilion has reached the stage of refining the void, and he is personally executing the sentence. Does he want to use a whip to deal with the fire phoenix? This is too urgent. There won't be any hidden secrets in it, will there? Mu Yen raised his whip, and the pressure of the meteor whip spread. The disciples who were watching were suppressed and unable to move. As expected, the bloody scene of blood splashing on the spot did not appear. Bang! A dazzling golden light burst out from Huohuang's body, and the powerful pressure shook open, forcing the disciples who were watching Xing Sheng to take a few steps back. And Mu Yen was the initiator of this anomaly, enduring the greatest backlash. The meteorous whip not only bounced off, but also pushed him back several steps. A gust of fishy sweetness surged up and was forcefully swallowed by him. The disciples who were watching were all shocked and their eyes fell on Huohuang, while the 4 deacons who were serving as background walls on the high platform almost stood up in sync and approached, their faces also showing a uniform shock. The deacon standing on the left side of Mayan, who was closer to him, spoke in a daze, the innate fire spirit body sealed by the ancient secret law. How could this be? The eyes of the deacon beside him flickered, and he spoke with a worried expression. I must remember correctly, this fire phoenix doesn't come from the mortal world, an ordinary farmer's home. How could there be ancient secret sealing techniques on her? Master, this matter is of great significance, it's better to investigate carefully. Under the eruption of this powerful force, Huohuang regained control of her body. She didn't care about the innate fire spirit body, ancient secret sealing techniques, and all kinds of malicious looks. She looked up urgently and loudly said, I don't admit my guilt, I was. Before she could finish speaking, Huohuang was suppressed by the whip wind and pressure from the meteorous god whip once again. Her eyes widened wide, and the trembling pupils reflected the whip shadow, which grew from small to large. In the end, her entire gaze was enveloped by the whip shadow, and she even smelled the smell of death. New book opening requires the support of cute little ones. Those who have surplus small votes in their hands should vote for Wenwen. Those who like Wenwen should remember to save it for easy updates. During the new book period, following up and commenting are very important for the grades of the new book. Little cuties should not hesitate to keep reading. If you are used to accumulating more before reading, please use your little hands to select the latest chapters and pull them to the end. This is also considered following up. In addition, you can participate in new book investment for free after reading the article for 10 minutes. On the main page of the article, if the investment is successful, you can receive a starting point coin later. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. The Book of Spirits. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. The Book of Spirits. As the meteor whip was about to fall on the fire phoenix, a green light bounced it away. At the same time, Qingyue's voice rang out, wait a minute. I saw a slender and exquisite figure appear, blocking in front of the fire phoenix, and the powerful pressure suddenly disappeared. The incoming person is the governor of Lingji Prefecture, Mushi. Huohuang's body softened, and her subordinates consciously supported the ground, stabilizing her body. At the same time, she spoke loudly and quickly. Master Mu Yen didn't even let the disciples finish arguing, so he killed his disciples. Is this a feeling of guilt? Mu Yen questioned the governor, but was blocked by Huohuang's words. This is called taking the lead and stirring up public opinion, and Huohuang continues to output firepower. Lord of the state, I don't know what evil law has controlled me, nor do I know what I have done. Please investigate thoroughly, Lord of the state, and return my disciple to a clean slate. As expected by Huohuang, her questioning and resolute attitude towards justice stirred up the gossip souls of the disciples watching, and the voices of discussion gradually rose. Mushi turned to face Huohuang, but turned his head to one side, his gaze fixed on Mayan, and he said, "Don't worry, the lord of this state will not let any disciples suffer unjustly." With this small gesture, Huohuang saw her warning to Mu Yan from the female governor. Undoubtedly, it is the Lingji prefecture, one of the 4 lower states in the eastern spirit domain, that has been supported with one hand. Becoming the first executive director alongside Qinglong State, the leader of the 8 major states, is too impressive. On the high platform, Mu Yan was repeatedly snatched from the conversation and received a warning from the governor's gaze. With a face as black as a pot, he spoke, "Governor, the process of this woman's murder and theft has been recorded by a photographic stone. Are you sure the governor wants to stand up for this criminal?" Upon hearing Mu Yan mention the shadow stone, Huohuang sighed helplessly in her heart. This was equivalent to surveillance footage used for evidence collection. The evidence was conclusive, so how would the governor reverse this unfavorable situation for her? At this moment, Mushi had already turned around and faced Mayan calmly, saying, "I have already intervened in this matter, so naturally the shadow stone needs to be seen." Mushi's calmness caused a bad feeling to surge in Mayan's heart. Then he heard Mushi's next words. "I came here for another thing. My eldest disciple Ling Yin has been promoted to the 7th rank alchemist and is preparing to refine the fire spirit pill, but lacks the main elixir, the immortal fire spirit Ganoderma." As soon as the 5 words Xianpin Huolingzi were spoken, there was not a significant change in the emotions on Mu Yan's face, but Huohuang saw a fleeting excitement and eagerness in his eyes. Then Mu Yan deliberately remained silent for a moment before speaking, "This is indeed a big matter. Please move to the main hall of the Discipline Pavilion to discuss. As for the Fire Phoenix, take it down first and investigate the burning of the library and the theft of the immortal fire spirit honey again." When things turned around, Huohuang quietly breathed a sigh of relief. She also came up with something from it. The relationship between these 2 people should be placed in the workplace. The governor, Mushi, is an executive director, and Mayan is a major shareholder with a voice. The major shareholder is satisfied with being an executive director, and if they want to further strengthen Mu Yan, they naturally need to find a breakthrough from Mushi's side. And the 5 Attribute Park expansion project she submitted received strong support from Mushi, making her the gateway for Mayan to break through. If nothing unexpected happens to her and she is the project leader with a different purpose, then the executive director who strongly supports her will have to bear this mistake, ranging from a loss of credibility to an unstable position as the executive director. In this way, Mu Yan's eagerness to kill her made sense. The Fire Phoenix, who sighed in her heart, was taken to the side hall of the Discipline Pavilion. She casually picked a chair and sat down, lowered her eyes in a silent state, thinking about her innate fire spirit body. Previously, at a critical moment of life and death, I didn't think much about it. Now, when I think of those malicious, even slightly coveted gazes on the square, it gives me a headache. There is also the ancient secret sealing technique. She was born through pregnancy and remembers her memories very clearly when she was born. Yue, who was entrusted by her mother to take her on the run, did not have enough cultivation to use such a powerful secret technique on her. It's Yuni, it's just her. Unfortunately, Yuni fell into a deep sleep when she was 3 years old to save her. However, it can be inferred from this that she may still be practicing the N generation. She needs to find a way to use a nourishing spiritual medicine to help Yuni wake up earlier. Yuni should be aware of her background. Thinking about things in her heart, I don't know how long had passed, but Huohuang woke up to the sound of footsteps. Seeing that the person coming was Mu Lin, the eldest disciple of Mu Yan, she quickly stood up. Just as the other person spoke, Huohuang, the matter has been thoroughly investigated. The burning of the library and the theft of the immortal fire spirit honey were controlled by external evil cultivators. Although you are not the mastermind, your vigilance is also too low. The lord of the pavilion punished you to go to the library and copy out all the burned books, hoping that you will have a long memory. Are you convinced, Fu? Huohuang spoke happily. Although she said so, she didn't believe a word of the survey result. This matter still needs to be investigated to obtain clues, from tracing the clues along the vine to the so-called evil cultivator, and then to capturing the evil cultivator and interrogating him. How can we win people's trust with these arrangements that won't take a few days to advance? So this survey result is just a signal that she has been picked out, but it is also enough for her. 2 months later, in the west area of the first floor of the library, Huohuang put a batch of copied books back on the bookshelf. While picking up the uncopied books, she found a book called The God of Food's Letter, which was quite old. The title caught Huohuang's attention, so she took the letter together. She started her business by replicating ancient recipes, so constantly paying attention to recipes and related books has become a habit engraved in her bones. Returning to her desk, Huohuang changed her usual mode of desperately copying books and opened The God of Food's Letter, quickly immersing herself in the story of the protagonist entering the Tao through food 10 days later. After reading the letter from the God of Food, Huohuang gently closed the book and showed a regretful expression on her face. Unfortunately, this was just one story. But the various delicious spiritual foods mentioned in the letter of the God of Food aroused the fire phoenix's desire for various delicacies. In her past life, she had a golden tongue. Whenever she received a new recipe, she would replicate the dishes on the recipe with the chefs at the restaurant and try them out. Her mouth was spoiled by various delicious foods. After comparing here, she had never had a delicious meal before, so her desire for food was stronger than ever at this moment. Alas, in the heavenly lawn realm where only spiritual salt and sugar are used as seasonings, it would be great if there really existed a recipe for food cultivation. Whoosh! Unconsciously speaking her heart, the food god's letter in her hand turned into a golden light and rushed into her sea of consciousness. Hai suddenly experienced a violent turbulence, and Huohuang's eyes turned black and she fainted. When she regained consciousness and opened her eyes, the person was not in the west area of the first floor of the library where she had been staying for more than 2 months, but in a vast and boundless place. The overall color tone of this place was a comfortable sky blue. Just as Huohuang was puzzled, a cute little person about 30 centimeters tall with a round face and big round eyes flew up to her with a swoop. The little man was wearing a clean white apron and held a shiny golden spatula in his hand. I saw it speak with a soft and cute voice. This is the space in the Book of the God of Food Manual. I am the book spirit Bai Wei, and the space in this book can only be accessed by divine consciousness. Then I saw Bai Wei's small hand pinching his waist, and his cute little face became unusually serious. I only appeared when I heard your words. Now I am very serious about asking you, are you willing to enter the path of food cultivation with food? Is there really a lot of recipes mentioned in the letter, such as the 10,000 Spirits Manual, Fire Control Technique, Spirit Fusion Technique, and so on? Huohuang's eyes sparkled as she asked. Her interest, which had previously been dispelled by this mere script, reignited at this moment. Of course there is, these were all created by my former master. He's really amazing, Bai Wei said with a proud expression on his face. I am willing. Huohuang replied to Bai Wei's previous question and eagerly asked him, what about the techniques and recipes? I will learn them now. I didn't expect the new owner to be so eager to learn. Bai Wei was very happy, and with a wave of his golden spatula, a golden book appeared out of thin air. And he explained a sentence. The former master threw me from the immortal realm to the heavenly lawn realm and told me that I need to study the martial arts in one book. This, All Souls Manual, is a mandatory course for beginners in food cultivation. It records the detailed information of all spiritual objects in the world. After you memorize the knowledge on the All Souls Manual in your heart, the next cultivation method can be given to you. Huohuang nodded in understanding, and the Qianyu Immortal Kitchen, who wrote the food god's letter, was a typical counterattack from the bottom. His talent is not good, he can only work as a miscellaneous disciple in the kitchen. But he has a keen sense of smell and taste, and is naturally skilled in cooking. Moreover, he has many imaginative ideas, and eventually became the first cultivator to enter the realm of food, creating the lineage of food cultivation. Then Huohuang curiously asked, "But why did Qianyu Immortal Kitchen throw you into the Tianlan realm?" Seeing Bai Wei's small shoulder collapse, he said, "The former master said that in the newly born Tianlan realm, my new master will appear. The new master will bring me new growth, which is why he threw me into this world. But I've been waiting for over 100,000 years without waiting for a new owner, and I'm almost giving up. Finally, I met you." At the end, Bai Wei was once again full of vitality. This statement makes Huohuang inexplicably feel guilty. She has not received systematic culinary training and is only at a low level. She is afraid that she may not be able to help Bai Wei, but she will work hard to grow. With this thought in mind, Huohuang raised her hand and summoned the higher than the Bai Wei Wanling manual to her. One of them is the eagerness to learn. Secondly, she was actually a bit curious. The spiritual plant encyclopedia she studied in the spiritual plant class covered all the spiritual plant knowledge in the Tianlan realm. She didn't know the difference between the spiritual plants recorded in the All Souls manual and the spiritual plant knowledge she had learned. Thinking this, she opened the cover of the All Souls manual. "Huohuang, wake up quickly. I'm looking for a small ticket, I'm looking for a collection. Come and find me in the comments section to play. You can participate in new book investment for free by reading foreign languages for 10 minutes. On the main page of the article, if the investment is successful, you can receive a starting point coin later." End of this chapter. Chapter 3. This leadership ability. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. This leadership ability. The phoenix, immersed in the ocean of knowledge, only woke up when she heard an urgent call. She quickly withdrew her consciousness from the space in the book, opened her eyes, and looked up to see Wu, the steward of the library, looking at her with a worried expression. Wu, the steward, breathed a sigh of relief and asked with concern, "Are you okay? The disciple who delivered the food didn't wake you up when he saw you asleep. He put down the food and left. When he brought the dinner for the night, he saw that you were still asleep and didn't take a bite of the lunch. He was frightened and urgently notified me. I'm worried about Steward Wu." "I'm fine, I'm just too tired and fell asleep without realizing it." Huohuang scratched her head with embarrassment and replied. "If it's okay, then you can eat the food while it's hot," Steward Wu instructed, and picked up the cold lunch before leaving. Wu, the steward, left with a disdainful expression on his face as Bai Wei, who knew the sea, spoke up, "This can also be called eating. Apart from some spiritual salt, there are no seasonings. The food in the Tianlan realm is all this virtue." Huohuang had no appetite at all and sighed, saying, "Our Tianlan realm only has 2 types of seasoning. Spiritual salt and spiritual sugar. The cooking methods include boiling, steaming, grilling, and stir-frying, and the cooking techniques are very outdated." Bai Wei didn't think there was a problem with Huohuang's words. After all, he was someone who had known his former owner for a lifetime. Then he proudly patted his small chest and said, "Technical backwardness is temporary. Now that you have me, I will help you master many, many powerful cooking skills. Okay, please give me more guidance in the future," Huohuang replied with a smile on her face, thinking to herself that when she left the library, she would have to do something delicious to satisfy her craving. Afterwards, Huohuang will spend more time studying the Universal Spirit Manual. A few days later, Huohuang saw Mushi in her study. Mushi looked at the little doll across from her and spoke gently, "Huohuang, I want to apologize to you. I was implicated in your framing. As a daughter, I inherit the position of the governor. There are many elders in my clan who have the power to speak, and there are few who are convinced, but many who want to replace them." Huohuang nodded. She understands gender discrimination. Mushi nodded obediently at the little doll and continued, I strongly support your plan to expand the 5-attribute garden. In the spirit of serving the good of the family, but I didn't expect Mayan to target you and see you as a breakthrough point. He even instructed the guard who captured you to take a decisive action against you. Whatever you want to say, it's all up to him to speak up. Anyway, there's no evidence to prove it. Fortunately, you girl had good luck and met the guards of the patrol city, blocking some of your attacks. Although your dantian was severely damaged, you managed to save your life. I came to see you this time for the immortal fire Lingji. Mu Yan's son has a cold poison in his body and needs the immortal fire Lingji to detoxify it. That's why I mentioned the immortal fire Lingji in the square. And you are the fire-type heavenly spirit root, able to sense the immortal fire Lingji, which is what gives you a glimmer of vitality. Now we have mastered the news of the immortal fire Lingji appearing in the Flame Mountain range. I have agreed with Mu Yan that you will complete the task of searching for the immortal fire Lingji. Once you retrieve the immortal fire Lingji, the punishment for copying books in the library will be waived. I have also prepared other rewards, and you will never be at a disadvantage. When Huohuang explained to Mushi about the immortal product Huolingji, only people with fire-based heavenly spiritual roots could sense it, and they cooperated to show a sudden realization expression. However, she has already learned about the characteristic of the immortal fire Lingji from Bai Wei. And what was recorded in the previous spiritual plant encyclopedia is that the immortal product fire Lingji, which grows for 100 years, is incorrect. The reason why Xianpin Huolingzi is designated as Xianpin is because it is born with spiritual intelligence. But she won't tell Mushi about these because the explanation is unclear. At this moment, she shook her head in shame and said, "Lord, I didn't blame you. It was because I wasn't vigilant enough that I spoke up." This statement from Huohuang is not perfunctory, but sincere. Whether in the mall or in the workplace, falling over is very common, with inferior skills and no one to blame. However, she also had suspicions in her heart that when she proposed the expansion project of the 5-attribute park, Mushi might have also set up a plan to attract Mayan's thoughts into the plan. As long as Mu Yan enters the game, it is inevitable to use people from the shadows. As long as it moves, Mushi can track down and uncover all the people who inserted Mayanen. Even if he didn't touch these people for a while, they were all exposed. If Mu Yan did anything else, Mushi would know immediately. This was almost like pinching Mu Yan's lifeline. What's even more interesting is that Mushi sold the fairy-grade fire Lingji to make a deal with Mayan, which not only saved her life but also pricked the hearts of those who followed Mayan. The faction of Mu Yan is not solely composed of Mu Yan alone. There are also 3 other members of the Mu clan, each with some strength and voice. It can be certain that in the future, there will be no peace within the Mu Yan faction. If Mushi continues to arch the fire, she is afraid that the internal strife within the Mayan faction will become increasingly fierce. In this way, she doesn't have to resort to violence and waits to reap the benefits. Unfortunately, everything was just her speculation based on Mushi's way of doing things, without any evidence. Now that her innate fire spirit body is exposed, even though she has doubts about Mushi in her heart, she has to admit that entering Mushi's camp is currently the best choice. I have taken on the task of searching for immortals to taste the fire Lingji. Various thoughts kept flowing in my mind, and on the surface, the fire phoenix spoke without hesitation and took on the task. Then she hesitated for a moment before speaking, "Lord of the state, I don't want any other rewards. Is there any way for my innate fire spirit body to be hidden again?" Mushi shook his head with a smirk, then took out a small wooden box that was only the size of a palm from the storage bracelet and handed it to Huohuang. At the same time, he explained, "This was originally prepared for you. I'll lend it to you for now, and once the task is completed, this thing will belong to you. As for the Lord of the Discipline Pavilion and the 4 deacons, they will all change their minds, so you don't have to worry. Wow, advance rewards, this leader can handle it." Huohuang opened the small wooden box under the signal of Mu Shi's gaze. Inside the box, there lay a very inconspicuous circular wooden plaque, but Huohuang felt a quaint atmosphere from the plaque. Seeing that Huohuang did not feel lost or unhappy because the thing was inconspicuous, Mushi continued to explain. This wooden plaque is carved from divine wood, with runes that conceal the essence of the object engraved on it. Although it is a talisman treasure, it cannot be attacked or has defense capabilities. In addition, it is inconspicuous, so you don't have to worry. People with ulterior motives can kill and steal treasures, and their cultivation below the Mahayana period cannot be seen through. Upon hearing the explanation, Huohuang immediately smiled happily and took out a wooden plaque to wear close to her body. With her actions, she told Mu Shi that she was a naive and trustworthy child who believed everything you said. Huohuang just put on the wooden plaque and saw Mu Lian leading a man in his early 20s, dressed in a light green robe, with sword eyebrows and starry eyes. He was extremely heroic and handsome, with a high and cold temperament and abstinence. Master. When Huohuang saw the other party bowing their hands and bowing to Mu Shi, she guessed his identity as Ling Yin, the head of the Dan Pavilion in the governor's mansion. There are no outsiders here, so there is no need to be polite between us, masters, and disciples. Mu Shi finished speaking gently and then smiled and introduced to Huohuang, Huohuang, this is my eldest disciple Ling Yin, who is also the owner of the Dan Pavilion. This time, he is leading the team to search for the immortal fire Lingji. Huohuang had already stood up and bowed with a smile, disciple Huohuang, pay respects to the lord of Lingyin Pavilion. The arm was supported by a long and powerful hand, and a gentle voice came from above. No salute. Huohuang followed this force and stood straight. Mushi spoke up in a timely manner and urged, all right, I won't delay you either. Hurry up and set off. Find the immortal fire Lingji earlier, and you can also come back earlier. Huohuang followed Ling Yin and merged with the medicine-seeking team. 10 days later, the medicine search team arrived at the outskirts of the Flame Mountain Range. Standing on the spiritual boat and looking down, the vegetation and trees that come into view are all red, with the only difference being in tree species, vegetation types, and color depth. The Flame Mountain Range is very large, with continuous and undulating peaks that cannot be seen at a glance. As the spiritual boat descended, the temperature also grew higher and higher. However, the cultivator's physique was not affected by cold or heat, and this temperature was within everyone's tolerance. Ling Yin controlled the descent of the spiritual boat. When everyone got off the spiritual boat, he retrieved it from his storage bracelet and took out an ice blue, crystal clear bracelet. Standing beside Ling Yin, one of his only female disciples, Mu Rao, gazed at the bracelet with a hint of enthusiasm, eagerly waiting for her master to hand it to her. But I saw my master handing the bracelet to Huohuang and saying, Huohuang, your elixir field has been severely damaged and your spiritual power is not running smoothly. It is acceptable to travel through this Flame Mountain Range for a short time, but if it continues for a long time, it will be unbearable. This bracelet can withstand the high temperature of the Flame Mountain Range, so I will lend you protection first. I am looking for small tickets and collectibles. I look forward to everyone coming to me to play in the comments section. In addition, you can participate in new book investment for free after reading the article for 10 minutes. On the main page of the article, if the investment is successful, you can receive a starting point coin later. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. This Unfortunate Luck. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. This Unfortunate Luck, thank you very much, Lord. Huohuang smiled and thanked her, then took the bracelet and put it on. Well, a boss who is willing to take care of subordinates and can handle it. Meanwhile, Mu Rao bit her lower lip and lowered her eyes in concern. The master's kindness towards Huohuang was due to her innate talent. Do they want to take her as their disciple? It's annoying to have another one vying for favor. With this thought in mind, Mu Rao's eyes, which were covered by thick eyelashes, were filled with a layer of resentment. No one noticed the changes in Mu Rao. Ling Yin led the way and led the group into the Flame Mountain Range. Due to spiritual reasons, Xianpin Fire Lingji moves its nest every 10.5 days and months. However, in places where it has been, people with heavenly fire spiritual roots can sense its residual breath. In the blink of an eye, everyone entered the Flame Mountain range for half a month and found places where the immortal Fire Lingji stayed for cultivation. That morning, Huohuang learned from another female disciple of Ling Yin, Yao Shu, that his fourth disciple Wu Qin was about to break through the golden pill. Ling Yin took Wu Qin to find a suitable place to cross the tribulation and break through. Today, Ling Yin's eldest disciple Reina will continue to search for the immortal Fire Lingji with them. As it was arranged by Ling Yin, and Reina was in the early stage of Yuanying's cultivation, the other two male disciples were also in the later stage of Jindan's cultivation. When encountering a monster, the three of them were completely capable of handling it, but Huohuang did not express any opinion. But luck is hard to say. Within half a day of going out, they encountered 4 7th-level demon beasts, equivalent to the cultivator's golden elixir cultivation period. Reina and 2 other male disciples stood in front of the 3 fire phoenix, and at the same time, Reina transmitted a message to the 3 Mu Rao. You 3 should immediately use teleportation symbols to leave and return to the mobile room. 3 senior brothers, be careful. Mu Rao finished speaking and took out 3 teleportation talismans, handing them to Yao Shu and Huohuang. Huohuang pressed the teleportation talisman onto her body, and in the next moment, Yao Shu grabbed her wrist. On the other side, Mu Rao also grabbed Yao Shu's wrist, activating the teleportation talisman. Looking at the toad in front of her, shining all black and with a cultivation level of about 5th, Huohuang felt particularly unlucky today. Junior sister, hurry up and take Huohuang away. Mu Rao took out her magic sword from her storage bag and blocked it in front of Yao Shu and Huohuang, while transmitting a message to them. Huohuang, hurry up and run south. After saying this, Yao Shu also took out his magic sword from his storage bag and stood shoulder to shoulder with Mu Rao. Be careful. Huohuang did not hesitate. It was not that she was greedy for life and afraid of death. Her dantian has been severely damaged, and her spiritual power is not running smoothly. When using magic, her spiritual power is not working properly, so staying behind may drag her legs. However, halfway through, she was stopped by a 5th-order toad. Master, hurry up, little triangle spirit pepper powder. Bai Wei's voice was too urgent, which prompted Huohuang not to inquire about the reason. She quickly took out the bottle containing Xiao Sanling Jiao powder from the storage bag. The toad on the other side opened its big mouth and interrupted Bai Wei's words with a frog roar. Immediately after, a strong suction enveloped her, and amidst the howling wind, Huohuang heard Bai Wei's unclear voice. Bottle stopper. As she watched the bloodthirsty mouth getting closer and closer, Huohuang used all her strength to pull open the cork of the bottle and saw the bright red small triangular spirit pepper powder in the bottle enter the bloodthirsty mouth with suction. She didn't know what harm little triangle Lingjiao powder could cause to this toad, but she believed in Bai Wei. Just as she was about to enter the toad's mouth, her heart couldn't help but lift it up. At that moment, the powerful suction suddenly disappeared. The phoenix, floating in mid-air, fell heavily to the ground, but she ignored the pain on her body and turned her head to look at the toad. I saw a toad over 2 meters tall, with a hole in its belly that was growing rapidly. The toad seems to have no strength to struggle and can only lean to the ground, letting its body turn into blood and water. Seeing this, Huohuang breathed a sigh of relief and slowly got up from the ground, asking Bai Wei, "Is this toad like this because of the little triangle spirit pepper powder?" In his divine sense, Bai Wei knelt down on the ground holding his golden spoon and spoke with a posthumous expression, "The little triangle spirit pepper is the nemesis of the swallowing sky demon toad. Fortunately, you ground all of this into powder, which made it so effective so quickly." Knowing the reason, Huohuang hesitated for a moment before finally turning around and running back. Today's situation seemed particularly sinister, and she felt that it was better to go back and reunite with Mu Rao and Yao Shu to ensure safety. Bai Wei also guessed the master's intention and did not stop it. With the master's current spell that is not working properly, encountering monsters again would not bring good luck. Huohuang ran back halfway and felt a faint suction, not knowing what situation Mu Rao and Yao Shu were in now. She didn't dare to delay and moved forward a bit. Feeling strong suction, she didn't dare to move forward anymore. She quickly took another bottle of small triangular Lingjiao powder and pulled out the cork. Fortunately, the little triangle Lingjiao powder has little weight and is easily absorbed by this suction force, but after a minute, the suction disappears. Huohuang estimated the distance and felt that the speed was too fast, but the suction of the toad wouldn't disappear for no reason. Could it be that Mu Rao and Yao Shu teamed up to solve the toad? After hesitating for a moment, Huohuang still walked towards the direction where Mu Rao and Yao Shu were. But on the way, I first saw a small amount of small triangular Lingjiao powder falling to the ground. Immediately after, Mu Rao appeared, and Huohuang saw a fleeting surprise in Mu Rao's eyes. A chill rose from the soles of Huohuang's feet, and she also felt an ominous premonition in her heart. But in her past life, she was accustomed to seeing big winds and waves. On Huohuang's face, there was almost an instinctive expression of surprise and relief, followed by worry in the next moment. Mu Rao, where is Yao Shu? At this moment, Mu Rao had already arrived by Huohuang's side. Upon hearing her words, her eyes turned red and she said, I was about to find you when Yao Shu was seriously injured. Follow me. Okay, then let's go find Yao Shu Jia quickly. Huohuang nodded anxiously and then crossed over Mu Rao. At the same time, a teleportation talisman appeared in her hand. And behind her, Mu Rao, the grief in her eyes was replaced by a killing intent, summoning her own magic weapon from the Dantian. A fiery red needle, about 5 or 6 centimeters long, with a transparent appearance as a whole. When the needle shot out, the Huohuang, who received the Bai Wei reminder, activated the teleportation talisman. The teleportation talisman brought the fire phoenix to the edge of a cliff. Before the fire phoenix could marvel at her unfortunate luck, she saw a transparent red needle piercing through the air. In a moment of urgency, Huohuang formed a shield with spiritual power and blocked the red needle. However, the speed of the red needle was too fast, and a flash of red light hit her Dantian directly. As the red needle penetrated through her body, Huohuang's eyes turned black with pain from the shattered Dantian. At this moment, Mu Rao chased after her. Why? Huohuang covered her abdomen, trying to stabilize her body, and looked at Mu Rao with eyes filled with towering hatred. The reason for asking this question is twofold. Firstly, she really wants to know the reason, secondly, she procrastinates. Even in a life or death crisis, she doesn't want to expose her last card. It's important to cover it up a bit. It's enough to have me as a female disciple by my master's side. Mu Rao's eyes lit up with a seductive light. After speaking, she controlled the red needle behind the fire phoenix and headed towards it. At the same time, Huohuang kept her other hand behind her, sprinkling a handful of small triangular spirit pepper powder at Mu Rao, ready to hide into space, only to see Mu Rao across from her suddenly spit out a big mouthful of blood. Silly girl, why don't you take the opportunity to kill someone? The voice coming from her divine sense lit up Huohuang's eyes and she exclaimed in surprise, Yumi, you've woken up. Well, let's talk about the rest later. Let's first solve the danger in front of us. Huohuang nodded and took a magic sword from the space. She was about to move towards Mu Rao, who had fainted, when suddenly a strong suction came from below the cliff behind her. Send today's update, dear readers. Starting tomorrow, it will be updated at 8 a.m. every day. The new book requires your support. If you have any extra recommendation tickets, remember to submit them to Wenwen. If you like Wenwen, remember to bookmark them for easy access to updates. In addition, you can participate in new book investment for free after reading the article for 10 minutes. On the main page of the article, if the investment is successful, you can receive a starting point coin later. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Picking up and handling leaks. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Picking up and handling leaks. Did she hit the suction bar today? This is the voice of self-ridicule before Huohuang lost consciousness. Huohuang didn't know how long she had been unconscious, but when she woke up, she was at the entrance of a dark passage. As soon as she woke up, Yunyi's voice rang out in the sea. Mixing yourself up into a useless person, your luck is really as bad as ever. Upon hearing these words, Huohuang lay motionless on the ground, in the shattered elixir field, feeling a throbbing pain and lacking strength. At a critical moment, Aunt Yun, you woke up and disabled that deadly red needle for me, indicating that I still have some luck. In space, the spiritual charm presented by a semi-transparent virtual body still carries a hint of fear on her stunning face. She spoke in anger, you girl really can cause trouble. Do you know that when I wake up, I see a spiritual weapon level magic weapon shooting towards you? If I don't stop it, this red needle will enter your body from behind and penetrate your heart. How could you still joke with me? After finishing speaking, Lingyun sighed and thought about the child's difficulties. She softened her tone and asked, tell me, what exactly happened to this murder? When it comes to this matter, Huohuang's expression is a bit difficult to express, but she still told Yunyi about everything she has gone through, that she is currently working there and has not hidden anything. Speaking of Mu Rao, Huohuang paused for a moment before speaking up, I'm just speculating that Mu Rao admires the Lord of Lingyin Pavilion. She may be a bit crazy about her admiration. Any female cultivator who approaches the Lord of Lingyin Pavilion will be considered a mortal enemy. That's why she attacked me, right? The situation of Mu Rao has an academic term in her past life, called paranoia, a type of mental illness. However, this type of mental illness is not yet easy to detect, and by the time it is discovered, she is already standing on the brink of death. I had a good business trip, but it ended up being disturbed by a lunatic, which made me very angry. Lingyun sighed again and changed the topic. Not to mention that, this time you have also benefited from misfortune. This is a cave where a cultivator who transforms gods can sit and be sucked in. Obviously, you have a connection with a cave. Let's explore this cave now and see what opportunities there are. There is no danger in this passage, but the gate of the stone chamber is guarded by a formation. Do you have a spirit stone in your hand? Yes, but not much. Is over 100 lower grade spirit stones enough? Huohuang asked nervously, afraid that there might not be enough spirit stones, and missed the opportunity. Fortunately, that reclusive cultivator only created a formation at the entrance of the stone chamber, and your little wealth is just enough. This made Huohuang breathe a sigh of relief. She took out the salary she had accumulated for a year from her storage bag and, under the guidance of Lingyun, placed the spirit stone into the groove on the stone door. A series of clicking sounds were heard, and the spirit in the groove turned into dust. A pattern on the stone door lit up and then disappeared. Yunyi, can we go in now? Huohuang was a bit impatient, losing all her savings, so she was quite concerned about whether she could pick up some and make some mistakes. Come on in. Lingyun only replied to her 2 words. At this moment, she was squatting on the ground of the space, staring at the medicinal field that should have been used to plant spiritual medicine, lost in thought. At this moment, the medicinal field is filled with sweet potatoes, and on the edge, there are several green peppers, a branch of unknown variety, and a small piece of red onion. At that time, outside the space, Huohuang had already pushed open the stone door and entered the stone chamber. There is nothing else in the stone chamber except for a stone platform in the center, and a skeleton sits cross-legged above the platform. I don't know how many years have passed, but the magic clothes on the bones have weathered. Huohuang approached the skeleton and bowed with her fists to the sitting skeleton. After the ceremony, a silver light flashed on the stone platform in front of the skeleton, followed by a storage ring. Huohuang bowed again before reaching out to take the storage ring. She didn't rush to investigate the storage ring, but asked Lingyun in the space, Yuni, can you help me cremate the body of this senior? The spiritual charm in the space returns to life, drifting out of the space and shooting a spiritual fire towards the skeleton. Skeletons ignite upon encountering spiritual fire and eventually dissipate into the air. Huohuang just shed blood and recognized the owner of the storage ring, taking out the contents inside. There are not many things, a martial arts book called The 5 Elements Mysteries, a specially made jade box with 4 palms wide and 30 centimeters long, as well as some scattered bottles and jars, and the most basic kitchen utensils. There is a plant in the jade box that is the target of her business trip, the immortal fire Lingji. In addition to the immortal fire Ganoderma, there are also several precious spiritual medicines. Girl, you're lucky. You actually have an 8-leaf gathering herb, which is the main medicine for refining the revival pill. Your elixir field has a chance to recover. Lingyun continued happily, although the other spiritual medicines may not be of much use to you, you can sell them for exchanging spirit stones and then purchase spiritual medicines for refining the revival pill. Take a look at the other 3 jade boxes and see what else is good. The fire phoenix opened the other 3 jade boxes according to her words. The 3 jade boxes contained the same thing. One was wheat with the same shape, but the color was as green as jade. Surprisingly, it's jade wheat. It's a great product for refining the body, no wonder there's so much preparation, said Bai Wei. Fei Mai Huohuang knew that according to the complete collection of spiritual plants, due to its extremely low spiritual energy content and slow growth time, it was classified as a non-flowing spiritual plant. As early as tens of thousands of years ago, Fei Mai became extinct due to the abandonment of cultivators. I didn't expect that there would be a discerning cultivator who had accumulated so much inventory and even used this specially made jade box, which not only preserves the vitality of spiritual plants but also has the function of absorbing virtual energy. Huohuang collected things into the space and followed her into the space. Following the spirit of returning to space, pointing to the medicinal field occupied by the earth spirit potato, he spoke softly, "Are you just wasting the medicinal field for cultivating spiritual medicine?" Huohuang smiled nervously and said, "It's only when it's empty that it's wasted." Lingyun. Without a word to refute, she waved her hand and said, "Anyway, space has already been given to you. You can mess around as you like." Then she changed the topic and said, "What are your plans for the future?" Without saying this. When it comes to this topic, Huohuang did not conceal the fact that she entered the Tao through eating. Previously, she was trapped in the Lord's mansion and had no choice, but now that she is in Lingyin, she should belong to the person whose ID card has been cancelled. She can easily create a fake identity and work as a freelancer, casual cultivator. With a firm idea, Huohuang spoke up and said, "Aunt Yun, there is a way to rely on returning to the governor's mansion, but when working under someone else's command, you have to obey their orders. This constraint is too great. I want to do casual training, although I have no reliance and may encounter many dangers in the future, but I am not bound by others." Lingyun nodded in agreement and said, "I also prefer you to do casual cultivation. As for the cultivation resources, you don't have to worry too much. My master of immortal elixirs can easily refine a few rounds of high-level elixirs to solve the problem." The consensus was reached, and Huohuang breathed a sigh of relief. At this moment, her stomach growled and she looked at Lingyun pleasantly. "Yun-yi, can you help me grind some jade wheat flour? Babies, updates have arrived. New books cannot do without the support of babies. For those who have surplus votes, vote for 1-1. For those who like 1-1, remember to bookmark it for easy updates. See you tomorrow, Momoda." In addition, you can participate in new book investment for free after reading the article for 10 minutes. On the main page of the article, if the investment is successful, you can receive a starting point coin later. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Vegetarian Dumplings. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Vegetarian Dumplings. Lingyun didn't think grinding flour was a waste of talent for her. Jade wheat has a body refining effect, which is suitable for your current situation. You can't practice, but increasing your body strength is also a layer of protection. How much do you need to grind? Seeing that Aunt Yun didn't care, Huohuang walked towards the small house while quietly pondering. We need to maximize the utilization of the labor force we are seeking. Otherwise, if we grind some flour today and tomorrow, it may be troublesome for Yun-Yi that day. So when she returned to the cabin, she took out 2 jade boxes and put the jade wheat in the storage bag. The jade boxes were emptied for a while to hold flour. As for the other jade box of jade wheat, Huohuang plans to keep it as a seed. When her body has strength, she will open up some spiritual fields. Since we need to do food cultivation, the spiritual field is indispensable. At least in the early stage, we can be self-sufficient through space. After handing the storage bag to Yun-Yi, Huohuang saw the red needle that had destroyed her elixir field, broken into 2 pieces, and a red jade plaque under the other 2 jade boxes. Yun-Yi, did you bring this red needle and identity card into the space? Upon hearing this, Lingyun's gaze swept over the red needle and jade plaque, explaining, I wasn't sure about your thoughts at the time. If you had to go back, with this evidence, you could still seek justice. I can't make your dantian useless, so when it was swept down by that suction, I casually carried that person's jade plaque into the space. Upon hearing Aunt Yun's words, Huohuang suddenly remembered something. She must have been injured on duty. I don't know if the governor's office has any public injury compensation. If it does, if she fires the boss, the public injury compensation will be ruined, which would be a huge loss. With this thought in mind, Huohuang spoke seriously and said, Aunt Yun, since there is evidence, the earlier this account is settled, the better. If we go out and do it alone, let's find another opportunity in the future, okay? Lingyun looked at the little girl who had changed her mind and asked her faintly, of course I have no objection, but Mu Rao's life magic weapon has been destroyed like this. When she goes back, how do you plan to explain it? Huohuang blinked her eyes and spoke innocently, I don't know. Lingyun. After a moment of confusion, Lingyun reacted and raised her hand to lightly light the ignition phoenix, smiling, yes, you don't know anything. After finishing speaking, she smiled and turned around to grind the flour. And Huohuang first checked the bottles, jars, and jars obtained from the sitting cultivator. Among them, only one was a Naksu bottle, which contained vegetable oil extracted from the oil node tree. This vegetable oil has a long growth cycle and low oil yield due to the oil node tree, but it is rich in rich spiritual energy. When used for frying vegetables, it can also stimulate the spiritual energy of the vegetables themselves, and the price is extremely expensive. Using Naksu bottles can ensure that the quality of the oil remains unchanged. As for the rest of the bottles and jars, some of them contain elixirs that have lost their effectiveness. There are only 2 jars, one containing spiritual salt and the other containing spiritual honey. Whether it is spiritual salt or spiritual honey, they are all seasonings that will not spoil. Huohuang took the Nasu bottle containing vegetable oil, the jar containing spiritual salt and honey, and the kitchen utensils to the kitchen. She planned to fill her stomach with the remaining bottles and jars before cleaning them up. Then she picked up the hoe from the corner of the room and carried it down to the ground. When Lingyun grinds out the jade wheat flour, Huohuang brings back a handful of red onions and 3 earth spirit potatoes. What are you planning to eat? Lingyun asked curiously. Sush Jin dumplings, Huohuang replied, putting down the ingredients in her hand and taking out the red mushrooms from a bamboo basket on the shelf. Whether it's the previous little triangle Lingjiao, or the current red mushrooms, scallions, and 2 other seasonings, strong fragrant Lingjiao and spicy berries, they are all the harvest of this trip to the Flame Mountain Range. Oh, there shouldn't be anything I can help with now. Lingyun spoke with little interest. No, Yunyi's tired, let's go rest. Huohuang waved her hand, put the ingredients into the bamboo basket, took them to the well outside for cleaning, and also brought a bucket of well water back. At this moment, Bai Wei curiously asked Huohuang, Master, how did you know that vegetarian dumplings need these few types of vegetables and potatoes? Huohuang kept moving her hands and smiled as she replied, in the mundane world where I used to live, there were many ingredients that could make vegetarian fillings. Even in this spiritual world, there were huge differences in ingredients, but using ingredients with familiar flavors to make fillings would never be wrong. Diling potato is a general term for rhizome-type spiritual plants, which can be further divided into two categories. Sweet potatoes with a sweet taste that can be used as a staple food, and vegetable potatoes with a rich flavor that can be used for cooking. The three types of vegetable potatoes dug up by Huohuang are rose red with fish scale-like patterns on the surface. They have a shape similar to carrots, a sweet taste, and are crispy when eaten raw. After being stewed for a long time, the taste is very pink and sticky. The second type is a green glazed potato in the shape of water droplets, with a shiny and smooth surface. It is over 10 centimeters long and has a light green color. Its taste, whether raw or cooked, is crispy, with a rich sour taste and a special aroma. The third type is a round-shaped purple sweet potato with golden stripes, which has a crispy and spicy taste, whether raw or cooked. After washing the ingredients thoroughly and pouring half a bucket of well water, Huohuang returned to the kitchen and took the kitchen utensils to the edge of the well for cleaning. Return to the kitchen and start making the filling. Cut all 3 vegetable potatoes and red mushrooms into small pieces, half of the red onions into chopped green onions, and half into long sections. She blanched 3 diced vegetables and potatoes in water, then added a layer of cold water and placed them aside. After the pot is cooked dry, pour in vegetable oil and add chopped scallions to cook with scallion oil. After the aroma is cooked, pick out the scallions and pour the diced red mushrooms into the pot. After stir-frying to create a fragrant aroma, pour in diced potatoes, then add an appropriate amount of salt and spicy fruit powder. Stir-fry a few times, then add the scallions. Remove from the pot and put them into a large bowl. By the way, spicy berries are extra large peppercorns because their appearance is almost the same as pepper and their aroma is richer than pepper. The dumpling filling is done, and the fire phoenix just starts to mix the noodles. Don't be fooled by the fact that the husk of emerald is green, but when ground into powder, the flour appears extremely light green, which may not be noticeable without careful inspection. Silently looking at the owner and the noodles, rolling out the dumpling skin, the flavor of making dumplings, couldn't help but say again, you are so skilled in rolling out the dumpling skin, but there are no dumplings in the Tianjiao world to eat. The hand of Huohuang making dumplings kept moving, and she opened her mouth and explained, there isn't one in the Tianjiao world, but there is one in the mortal world. My grandfather is a cook and used to help him a lot. Practice makes perfect. This is not a lie. Among the grandparents who adopted her back then, Grandpa was indeed a cook, and she often helped Grandpa. The seasoning is limited now. When we leave here and get the ingredients, we can make more seasonings and make more delicious ones. At this point, Huohuang swallowed hard. I can't think anymore, the more I think, the more I crave. The filling was quickly finished, and the dumpling skin was also used up. Huohuang couldn't wait to cook a bowl for herself. No dipping sauce, it's okay. After the dumpling filling is slightly spicy and sour, it just turns sweet and the red mushrooms add freshness and fragrance. Everything is just right, but mixing dipping sauce can actually affect the original flavor of the dumpling filling. Bai Wei waited patiently for the owner to fill his stomach before saying, Master, you're not planning to use spiritual food for the seasoning you're talking about. Follow the seasoning making methods in the mortal world. Send today's update, regular ticket requests, collection requests. We really need your support for the new book period. See you tomorrow, Momoda. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. What about bombing a house? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. What about bombing a house? Seeing Bai Wei asking like this, Huohuang's heart lifted and she said, I have such a plan, but looking at you like this, it shouldn't be impossible. I don't know if it's okay, but I'm curious, so when do you plan to leave this cave and go out early? We can also try it out early. Bai Wei shrugged and spoke with a bachelor. Huohuang breathed a sigh of relief as she washed dishes and replied, "It's not urgent. I used to be in the governor's mansion and didn't dare to enter the space, so I haven't taken good care of it. Now that I have the opportunity, I'll take good care of the space first. When I return to the governor's mansion, I'm afraid I won't be able to enter and exit the space as casually as I do now." "Okay, listen to you." Bai Wei felt it was reasonable, so he didn't rush to leave. After packing up the dishes, Huohuang turned around and went to the resting room. She had planned to take a nap and regain her strength, but found that the pain in Dantian's area was not so bad anymore and her body felt stronger. The effect of this jade wheat is taking effect so quickly. I don't feel so much pain in Dantian now, and my limbs have gained strength. Huohuang exclaimed in surprise. In the sea of consciousness, Bai Wei held a golden spatula and proudly spoke, "If we only consume jade wheat, naturally there won't be such a significant effect. But don't you use ingredients rich in spiritual energy such as vegetable potatoes and red mushrooms as fillings. Jade wheat transforms their spiritual energy and is used for body refining, and the effect will come out. And although it cannot restore your dantian, it can repair the injuries on your body, so the pain in your dantian area will be relieved." After listening to Bai Wei's explanation, Huohuang didn't rest anymore and took a hoe to the ground. This kind of good thing, of course, needs to be opened early in the spiritual field, planted early, and in the future, jade wheat will be her staple food. The time in the space is 5 times longer than outside, and she stays in the space for 10 days. Not only does she plant all the jade wheat left as seeds in the spiritual field, but she also opens up several spiritual fields for future use, making it convenient to enrich the variety of ingredients in the space. At noon that day, just as Huohuang was preparing to have a full meal and then leaving the space, Lingyun suddenly spoke to her. "There is a male cultivator wearing a light green robe who is in the stage of transforming into a god. He found himself outside the cave and is trying to break the ban. This person is probably looking for you. It should be the lord of the pavilion named Lin Yin, but how could he be certain that you are in this cave? Yes, with Mu Rao around, she would definitely say I'm already dead." Speaking of this, Huohuang thought of something and quickly took out the divine wood talisman she was wearing close to her and asked Ling Yun, "Yuni, can you help me check if there's any problem with this talisman?" Ling Yun scanned her eyes and shook her head, saying, "There's no problem with the talisman. Do you have a soul lamp in the governor's mansion?" "I don't know." Huohuang paused before frowning and continuing, "But some people think I'm useful and have secretly lit a soul lamp for me, which is also possible. This person is probably holding your soul lamp, making sure you're not dead. Use the soul lamp to find this place. The restrictions in this cave will not be broken for a while. First, fill your stomach and then leave the space to wait outside for the Lord of the Lin hidden pavilion. As for the injuries on your body, if Lord Lin Yin asks about it, tell him that the sitting cultivator in this cave has left a high-level healing pill, okay?" Huohuang responded and filled her stomach. She then transferred the bottles, jars, and the 5 elements uprising technique that had not been cleaned yet, as well as the Naksu bottle that was previously used to hold vegetable oil but had already been used up, to her storage bag. After finishing these, she hesitated for a moment before taking out the immortal fire Lingji and putting it into another empty Naksu box. She also put this Naksu box into the storage bag before leaving the space. 2 days had passed outside, and Huohuang casually found a place to sit down. After waiting for about 10 minutes, she heard a loud bang and the entire stone chamber shook. She stood up against the wall, unable to help but mutter to herself, "It's just breaking the ban. What about causing such a big commotion and bombing the house?" Just as Huohuang was pondering whether to enter the space to avoid it, the stone chamber stopped shaking. The next moment, a green figure flashed into the stone chamber. Ling Yin looked at the safe and sound Huohuang, breathed a sigh of relief, and walked up to Huohuang. He looked up and down at Huohuang and saw the problem at a glance, so his sword eyebrows furrowed and he said, "Your elixir field." Being framed by a colleague, the evidence is conclusive, and the boss takes the initiative to ask again. The steps for seeking justice have been set up, and of course, Huohuang will not miss the opportunity. She took out Mu Rao's life magic weapon and identity card from the storage bag and handed them to Ling Yin. At the same time, he spoke with a sad expression, "My Dantian was destroyed by this life magic weapon that was wrapped around wood. As for how this thing turned out like this, I'm not quite sure. When I woke up in this place, this thing and Mu Rao's identity jade plaque were right beside me." Ling Yin reached out and took the broken red needle and identity card. He first put the identity card into the storage bracelet, and then wrapped the broken red needle in spiritual power, instantly understanding the details of the red needle. Whether it is the elite high-level officials who have become the masters of a single cabinet, and with such a cold and aloof face, this enhanced version is profound and unpredictable. When asked about the Fire Phoenix, who has a dual sense of human intelligence, she couldn't see any clues. Ling Yin also put the red needle into the storage bracelet before speaking, "Mu Rao's soul has been severely injured and hasn't woken up yet. You go back to the mobile house with me first, and when she wakes up, I will review her on my own. If she really has malicious intentions, I will give you justice." Huohuang nodded and then took out the empty box containing the immortal Huolingji from the storage bag, opening it. The owner of this cave is a seated deity transforming cultivator. This is the immortal fire Lingji that he left behind, as well as a martial arts book and some pills. One of them is a high-level healing pill, which is the only one that still retains its medicinal effect. I took it at that time upon seeing the immortal fire Lingji. A soft emotion finally appeared on the cold and aloof face of Ling Yin. He raised his hand to hold the box, but didn't move it at once. With a little more force, he still didn't move it. Looking up, he saw the little doll across from him and spoke with a heart-wrenching expression, "Master, can I keep this box?" Ling Yin's high and cold face narrowly escaped tension, but she still withdrew her hand and took an empty Nasu box from the storage bracelet, putting the immortal fire Lingji into her Nasu box. Then, with a wave of his sleeve, he put the phoenix into his sleeve pocket and tore open the space to leave. Huohuang, who had no preparation at all, felt a darkness before her eyes. Soon, her eyes lit up again, and she had already returned to the moving house. Immediately after, I heard Rena's surprised inquiry. "Huohuang, you're all right, but Sister Mu said, you and Sister Yao were buried together in the belly of the swallowing heavenly demon toad. What's going on? Send today's update and continue to ask for tickets. For those who love literature, remember to save it for easy updates. See you tomorrow, MoMA." End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Oath for Help Brother. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Oath for Help Brother. Yao Shu was indeed buried in the belly of the swallowing heavenly demon toad, but I am not, Huohuang replied to Reina's words and turned her head to look at Ling Yin. Ling Yin instructed Reina, "Go and call out Mu Rao." However, for a moment, Mu Rao, with a pale face, followed Reina to the hall. However, Reina's expression was somewhat strange. Standing behind Ling Yin, he looked back and forth between Huohuang and Mu Rao with a curious gaze. Ling Yin took out the broken red needle from the storage bracelet and asked Mu Rao, "Rao, are you wasting Huohuang's dantian?" I saw Mu Rao kneeling down with a thud, her pale face weakening her alluring beauty and adding a touch of softness. I saw those charming eyes, tears streaming down my face as I spoke. My expression was both fearful and regretful, and I said, "Master, I'm sorry. It was my disciple who didn't control the right balance and ruined the dantian of the fire phoenix. At that time, I was very scared. Huohuang and she controlled the swallowing sky demon toad, swallowing Sister Yao, I. The remaining words were replaced by sobs. Watching Mu Rao cry with tears in her pear blossom, Huohuang's gaze swept over the several men present, except for Ling Yin holding a high and cold face, unable to show any emotions. His 4 disciples, including Reina, who had previously been a bit skeptical of Mu Rao, would all show an expression of impatience and affection. Encountering an acting school that wants Huohuang to also play Xiao Bai Hua, arguing with this is a waste of time. It seems that we can only seek the oath brother who is more useful than any evidence. So she turned her head to look at Ling Yin and spoke calmly, "Master, I was chased by Mu Rao, and I don't understand why she treated me like this. After my Dantian was abandoned, I asked Mu Rao why she did it. Mu Rao said that there can only be a female disciple like her by the side of the pavilion master. I can make a vow of the heavenly way to prove that I am not lying." After speaking, Huohuang didn't give anyone a chance to react. "I, Huohuang, swear to heaven that if what I just said is a lie, I will destroy my body and soul." As the words fell, Huohuang felt a prohibition falling on her, but after a moment, the prohibition disappeared again. Ling Yin and others also witnessed this scene, and when they looked at Mu Rao again, they looked panicked. The truth was about to be revealed, and the unbearable and affectionate feelings in the eyes of the 4 brothers of Reina were replaced by suspicion and anger. However, in front of their master, the 4 of them did not dare to cross over and question Mu Rao. "Mu Rao, don't you plead guilty? Or do you want to personally search your soul for the master?" Mu Rao didn't expect Huohuang to react so quickly and act so harshly. The heavenly way swore to stand up immediately. This time she was completely finished, and this cognition made Mu Rao break the jar. She looked up and stared almost obsessively at the handsome face, saying, "Master, do you know how much Rao admires you? This admiration is so strong that I can't bear to see other nuns around you. You can only be me." The meaty words made Huohuang, a bystander, feel goosebumps all over her body. Looking at Ling Yin again, a slight crack finally appeared on her cold face, and a disgust beyond strictness appeared in her eyes. However, Mu Rao was provoked by the disgust in Ling Yin's eyes and rushed towards Ling Yin, ignoring it. "Master, you can't look at me with such eyes. Everyone can hate me, but you can't." However, Ling Yin did not give Mu Rao a chance to get close, so he cast a spell to seal the spiritual power around her and locked her in the original room. After sealing the room, Ling Yin finally said to Huohuang, "The act of Mu Rao harming his fellow disciples is of a very bad nature. This matter must be reported to the master and reviewed and punished by the discipline pavilion. Both the master and the discipline pavilion will give you justice, and I am the master of Mu Rao. If my disciple makes a mistake, I will also take some responsibility. After returning, I will compensate you well." It seems that there is indeed compensation for public injury. Choosing to return to the governor's office is the right step. Huohuang felt happy in her heart, but her face didn't show any signs. She clasped her fists and saluted, "I will obey everything arranged by the lord of the pavilion." After hearing these words, Ling Yin breathed a sigh of relief and asked, "Do you know how to cook?" Huohuang was confused when asked, and the topic was a bit convoluted, but she still nodded and said, "Yes." Ling Yin nodded and turned to instruct the 4 disciples to stay in the mobile room, then hurriedly left. Huohuang returned to her temporary residence with an inexplicable expression on her face. At this moment, the spiritual charm in the space spoke, "Master Lin Yin always gives me a sense of familiarity, but I am very certain that I have never seen him before. It's okay not to mention Ling Yun." As soon as she mentioned it, Huohuang noticed that their names started with the character Ling, so she continued, "Perhaps you really knew each other before. Your names both started with the character Ling. After Huohuang finished speaking and waited for a while, she didn't even receive a response from Yuni. Divine Consciousness explored the space and saw that Aunt Yun didn't know what had settled in. She didn't think much about it either. Divine Consciousness withdrew from the space and went to the space in the book to continue learning the All Souls Manual. The Fire Phoenix, immersed in the ocean of knowledge, was awakened by the sound of knocking on the door, and her Divine Consciousness withdrew from the space in the book. Getting up and opening the door, she saw Ling Yin. Before she could ask, Ling Yin handed over a storage bag. Just listen to his explanation. You can't practice now, the Pai Gu Dan is useless to you. So I went to the nearby market and bought you some ingredients. There is a kitchen on the flying boat, and all the utensils inside are ready. You can make some food for yourself, thank you. Huohuang took the storage bag and expressed sincere gratitude. Immortal Fire Lingji is now in hand, and we are about to return to the governor's mansion. Ling Yin reminded Huohuang and then went to inform several disciples of Reina. Huohuang got on the spiritual boat and went to her temporary room before opening the storage bag given by Ling Yin. Inside, there are spiritual wheat flour, spiritual rice, a variety of spiritual vegetables and fruits, eggs, and meat. Just as it was about dinner time, Huohuang took a storage bag and went directly to the kitchen of Ling Zhou. She took out wheat flour, red berries, and eggs of the short-winged pheasant from the storage bag. Because Yuni had already settled down, Huohuang didn't disturb her and directly asked Bai Wei, "Is anyone staring at the kitchen?" "Oath brother. I love the cultivation world. Only here can I achieve great success. Babies, today's update is here. By the way, I would like to request a ticket and leave your lovely footprints in the comments section. We really need everyone's support for the new book issue. See you tomorrow, Momoda." End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Fried tomato and scrambled eggs cover. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Fried tomato and scrambled eggs cover. No, the 5 masters and disciples are all settled in their respective rooms, Bai Wei carefully investigated before replying. Huohuang asked Bai Wei to continue staring at the Lingyin master and disciples, quickly taking out the jade wheat flour and red onions from the space. She scooped a bowl of emerald wheat flour and poured it into a basin, collecting the emerald wheat flour into the space. Leave some scallions outside, and put the rest in your storage bag. Add a bowl of lingmai flour to the jade wheat flour, and add an appropriate amount of water to the flour to start kneading. Tonight, she plans to make fried tomato and scrambled eggs covered noodles. The red berries belong to raw fruits in Tianjiao world. But the taste is very similar to that of tomatoes, with a stronger aroma, more sandy flesh, thicker pulp inside, and it tastes several times better than tomatoes. This fruit is dark red in color, not very big, round, about the size of passion fruit, and the key is that it is rich in spiritual energy. The short-winged spirit pheasant is a common breeding bird in the Tianjiao realm. It is actually a chicken, and because it belongs to the pheasant family, it has a 4-character name. The common ones are black feathers and yellow claws. She is about twice the size of the chicken she has seen in her previous life, and produces a considerable amount of eggs every 2 days. The size of the egg is slightly larger than that of a duck egg, and it has no fishy taste, only an intoxicating and mellow egg aroma. The meat and eggs are rich in spiritual energy. Originally, after her promotion, Huohuang was already secretly planning to plant various spiritual vegetables and fruit trees in the space, as well as raise some short-winged spirit pheasants. This is also one of the reasons why she worked so hard to skip grades in school and work part-time on projects. After promotion and salary increase, I have the ability to buy spiritual vegetable seeds and spiritual fruit tree seedlings. And individual quadrangle villas have restrictions, so she is not afraid of people peeping at what she does in her villa. Unfortunately, all the efforts were in vain due to the conflict between the governor Mushi and Mayan. Since she ate a red heartberry when she reported the project to Mushi a year ago, she has been talking about the Xuxian world version of fried tomato and scrambled eggs. I didn't know how long it would take to eat the Xuxian world version of fried tomato and scrambled eggs, but now I am about to eat them in such an unexpected way. It seems that this business trip is not a loss. The various thoughts in Huohuang's mind kept going, but they didn't affect her face-to-face, so she didn't notice. Bai Wei stared at her face-to-face technique, looking disgusted. However, Thinking that the master had not yet been exposed to new techniques and did not know how to mix noodles, Bai Wei did not express his disgust. Quickly, the dough was polished, and the fire phoenix placed it aside to wake up the dough. She picked up 3 red berries and scallions to wash. Then dice the red berries, cut the scallions into small pieces, mix the eggs in a bowl, and mix well with salt. Staring at Bai Wei throughout the entire process, he couldn't help but wave his golden spatula and jump his feet in anger. Master, don't tell me. You plan to fry red berries with spirit pheasant eggs and red onions. Can this be eaten? You guessed wrong this time, but how does Qianyu Immortal Kitchen make red heart berries? Huohuang put the scattered eggs aside and asked curiously. The former owner did not use red berries to add to the dish. Isn't eating such a delicious spiritual fruit destroying its deliciousness? Bai Wei didn't feel at ease because of Huohuang's words, but at first replied to Huohuang's words and was about to ask her how she planned to make red heart berries when she brought the awakened dough. And he mysteriously said to it, "Today I'll let you smell a different kind of delicious food. Don't worry, wasting ingredients is shameful. Without confidence, I won't mess around." Seeing her unwavering promise, Bai Wei temporarily shut up. Huohuang rolls the dough into thin dough, folds the dough in half and then in half, folding it to the width of her palm, and cuts it into noodles that are the width of leek leaves with a knife. She left a portion and put the rest of the noodles into a clean box for later consumption, which would save a lot of trouble. Cook the noodles and put them into a large bowl filled with cold water. Heat the wok and cool the oil. Pour the egg mixture into the wok and let it solidify slightly. Use a spatula to disperse the mixture, then remove from the wok and place in a bowl. Pour a small amount of vegetable oil into the pot, add diced red heart berries and stir fry. The red heart berries will soften when heated, and juice will precipitate. As she watched more and more juice grow, it took time for the juice to thicken. Huohuang took a plate and picked the noodles soaked in cold water onto it. The juice gradually thickened after heating, and Huohuang added an appropriate amount of spirit salt to the pot and stir-fried it twice. Pour in the golden egg chunks and stir-fry them quickly. The sour and sweet fruity aroma and rich egg aroma blend together to create a tempting aroma. Finally, add the red onion. After being stimulated by the heat, the aroma of the onion blends with the fruity and egg aromas, making it even more dominant. The phoenix extinguished the fire in the stove, took the plate for noodles, poured stir-fried tomato and scrambled eggs on the noodles, and covered the noodles with stir-fried tomato and scrambled eggs. Unable to wait, Huohuang took the chopsticks and mixed the noodles while asking Bai Wei, "Xiao Bai Wei, is it fragrant?" Bai Wei nodded fiercely and said, "Fragrant, so fragrant. What is the name of this dish?" Stir-fried tomato and scrambled eggs is covered with noodles, and stir-fried tomato and scrambled eggs is called after the noodles are removed. This dish is very versatile, and the mixed rice is also super delicious. After that, the noodles are also mixed. Huohuang eagerly picked up a chopstick of noodles soaked in red tomato soup and served it to her mouth. Bai Wei's round big eyes followed Huohuang's chopsticks until the noodles entered her mouth. She eagerly asked, "What's the smell?" Huohuang didn't answer immediately. She closed her eyes and slowly chewed the noodles in her mouth, enjoying it. After swallowing the food, I opened my eyes and replied, "The soup is sandy, sweet and sour, and delicious." Immersed in the soft and smooth noodles, it not only appetizes but also has a rich and layered taste. She picked up another piece of egg and tasted it before telling Bai Wei, "Lingji egg, due to the sweet and sour tomato soup, not only has its rich aroma not been affected, but also gives the egg a slightly sweet aftertaste." Bai Wei couldn't help but swallow the words of Huohuang, but unfortunately it was just a book spirit and couldn't be tasted. So it could only look for other topics to divert its attention. "Are you named because the red berry belongs to the Solanaceae family, Solanaceae genus, and is native to the Shishan Mountains?" Huohuang nodded and wolfed down the noodles while delivering a message to Bai Wei. Don't you think it's easy to remember to call it that way? Bai Wei nodded and was about to say something when a sudden sound interrupted it. Huohuang, what did you do? Why is it so fragrant? It was Reina who made a sound, but not just him, his other 3 junior brothers were also present. After the phoenix turned around, the 4 people's eyes fell into the hands of the phoenix, and there was not much left to eat on the stir-fried tomato and scrambled eggs covered with noodles. Under the stimulation of this domineering aroma, the 4 of them stared at the other side, their eyes glowing with green light. Send today's update, babies. The comments section is so deserted. We look forward to leaving your cute footprints. See you tomorrow, Moma. End of this chapter. How much wool can be harvested in Chapter 10? You are listening at novelfull.audio. How much wool can be harvested in Chapter 10? Huohuang was not frightened, and she understood the reaction of the 4 of Reina very well. It's just that this is what she has left over from eating. Even if they don't mind, just 2 bites, they won't be able to divide it enough. What are you doing in the kitchen instead of practicing in the room? Just as Huohuang was in a difficult situation, Lingyin's slightly stern voice sounded. Reina and the 4 of them quickly stepped aside and then clasped their fists to salute Lingyin. After finishing the ceremony, as the senior brother, Reignited replied, Master, we can smell the aroma of food, so we came to take a look. Upon hearing these words, Lingyin glanced at the plate in Huohuang's hand. Her cold face still showed no emotional fluctuations. If you want to eat so much, then show sincerity. How does the restaurant collect spirit stones? Follow the rules. However, Lingyin's tone was much gentler. After he finished speaking, he turned around and left the kitchen. As soon as Lingyin left, Reina was the first to speak. Huohuang, we usually eat noodles in the cafeteria. 1 portion is 10 inferior spirit stones, of course, that's pure noodles. You have spiritual fruits, eggs, and vegetable oil. I'll give you a medium-grade spiritual stone, which can be exchanged for 100 lower-grade spiritual stones. How about buying one from you? We also want it, the other 3 also spoke in unison. It will take 10 days to travel from the Flame Mountain Range to the governor's mansion, and Huohuang is confident that with a delicious meal, she can tame the stomachs of these 4 country bumpkins. She could even speak up and take a fortune from these 4 country bumpkins. But being a human cannot be so short-sighted. How much wool can one catch with these 4 sheep? But if these 4 sheep are captured, they will bring her countless sheep. With a clattering calculation in her heart, Huohuang put down the plate in her hand and showed her previous passion for investment. You may not know that my grandfather is a cook, and I have been helping him since I was young, knowing a lot of dishes. With this first meal, I'm afraid there will be countless more on the way back. Why don't we cook for you all at once? Let's settle it all together. Reina thought for a moment and felt that his words made sense. He looked at the 3 junior brothers and saw that they all nodded. He then said, What are your requirements? Speak up and see. The ingredients purchased by the cabinet owner were originally enough for me alone. But with you, it's not enough. If you have ingredients in your hands and give me a sufficient amount for 10 days, how about you each give me 10 pieces of medium-grade spirit stones as a hard work fee? This is equivalent to exchanging 3 delicious spiritual foods for 1 medium-grade spiritual stone a day, which is much more cost-effective than 1 medium-grade spiritual stone for 1 meal. The 4 senior brothers looked at each other awkwardly, but Reina spoke up and said, Huohuang, we don't have any ingredients in our hands. How about this? We'll pay for Lingshi for this meal, and then you can write me a list of ingredients. You must be more familiar with this than us. Don't you think this was originally the result that Huohuang wanted? So he agreed. She first made 5 portions of stir-fried tomato and scrambled eggs covered noodles with Lingyin's Lingyin flour and sent them to them. After filling his stomach, Reina took the spirit stones given by his junior brothers and the ingredient list prepared by Huohuang and left the spirit boat alone to go to the nearby market to buy ingredients. About half an hour later, Reina turned around and handed the storage bag containing the ingredients to Huohuang, along with 50 medium-grade spirit stones. Seeing off Reina, Huohuang looked at the 50 medium-grade spirit stones in the storage bag and let out a faint sigh. Previously, in the governor's mansion, I worked tirelessly from dawn to dusk for a year, earning an annual salary of only over 100 yuan for inferior spiritual stones. I brought along 10 days of spiritual food for people, and received 50 yuan of intermediate spiritual stones, which is incomparable. 10 days later, the group returned to the governor's mansion, and the 4 brothers of Reina returned to the Dongye. However, before leaving, all 4 warmly greeted Huohuang. Huohuang also warmly waved goodbye to her sheep and waited for them to bring the sheep to her door. Ling Yin took Mu Rao and went to meet Mu Shi with Huohuang. Upon learning that Mu Rao had harmed his fellow disciples, Mu Shi summoned Mu Lian and asked her to personally take Mu Rao to the discipline pavilion for punishment according to the law. Before Mu Lian left, Ling Yin called out to Mu Lian and said, "Take a message to Master Mu Yen. Mu Rao has been kicked out of the door wall by me." Mu Lian nodded and stepped away. After handling Mu Rao's matter, Mu Shi sighed and took out a jade box the size of a palm from the storage bracelet. He said to Huohuang, "This is the nourishing pill inside. As long as the pill field is not destroyed, even the most serious damage can be repaired. This was originally a reward prepared for you. Who knew you would be persecuted like this on this trip? This nourishing pill is also useless to you. How about I exchange it for an equivalent spirit stone for you, girl? I have my own intention to take a look at the Yangyuan pill." Huohuang, who was about to agree, heard Aunt Yun's message and pleaded with Mu Shi with curiosity, "Lord Zhou, can I take a look at Yangyuan Dan? Just take a look." Seeing the little doll across from her blinking her agile big eyes and pleading at her, Mu Shi couldn't bear to refuse. She shook her head helplessly and handed her the jade box. "Thank you, Lord." Huohuang exclaimed in surprise, carefully taking the jade box and opening it, pretending to be curious. She first looked at it, then sniffed the scent of the pill. Until Aunt Yun said it was okay, she closed the jade box and returned it to Mu Shi, saying, "Lord, we will do as you say." Mu Shi wore a tolerant smile throughout the entire process. She retrieved the Yangyuan Dan storage bracelet and took out a storage bag, handing it to Huohuang. And he explained, Yangyuan Dan is a 6th grade pill, and the market price is generally around 1,000 top-grade spirit stones. This storage bag contains 1,000 top-grade spirit stones and 10,000 middle-grade spirit stones. The extra 10,000 medium-grade spirit stones are my compensation for you. The spiritual stone level in the Tianlan realm is divided into 4 levels, from high to low. Top-grade, mid-grade, and low-grade. 100 lower-grade spirit stones can be exchanged for 1 medium-grade spirit stone. The replacement of medium-grade spirit stones with high-quality spirit stones also starts at 100 yuan. But for top-quality spirit stones, the minimum exchange cost is 1,000 yuan. Huohuang took the storage bag and replaced the spirit stone inside with her own storage bag. This compensation was in exchange for her future, and she accepted it with peace of mind. Ling Yin waited for Huohuang to return the storage bag to Mu Shi before saying, "Huohuang, are you willing to be my disciple? Although I have no way now to help you restore Dantian. But when I am promoted to the 8th grade alchemist, there may be a way, and this is also my compensation for you, girl." "I can't agree." Huohuang's refusal was already on her lips, interrupted by Yun Yi's sharp voice. "Today's update has arrived, babies, please ask for tickets, please collect them. See you tomorrow, Momoda." End of this chapter.